Hey guys, this is Chris Fisher, and you're listening to Open Pike Night. Henry and Akiva will love this episode, and I would know.
Is this thing on? Hello, hello. Welcome to Open Pike Night, the Strange New Worlds podcast where your calls are the prime directive. I'm your host, John T. Bolds, here tonight with a fantastic guest on stage and callers in studio to talk all things Strange New Worlds. But first, let me introduce my co-hosts. The man who has been thinking about Strange New Worlds for years, but not nearly as much as our guest, Jesse Bailey.
That's actually, incredibly true. So I changed my Strange New Worlds calendar page over to February at the start of the month, obviously, and it's Captain Pike just crossing his arms and smiling. And I can't wait to get to March. I'd never look ahead.
Nice.
Because I feel like it would ruin me.
And the man who has been analyzing Strange New Worlds for years, but not nearly as much as our guest, host of Green Shirt, Cameron Harrison.
You could probably say the same thing about Donnie Darko.
There you go.
Oh!
And
Years.
tonight, you may have noticed that I said something generic like, let's talk all things Strange New Worlds. And that's because our guest tonight could rightfully be described as everything Strange New Worlds. Director of Equality of Mercy, The Broken Circle, and Hegemony Part 2, and co-executive producer of almost the entire series to date. Please welcome to the Open Pike Night stage, Chris Fisher.
Hey everybody!
It's great to have you.
Hey, I feel like we should start us off with a happy birthday to Anson.
Absolutely.
It's been Open Pike Night. Give a shout out to Captain Pike himself.
Do you want to sing? Do you think we should? We don't have to sing.
My
Our
gift is
first
not
copyright strike ever will be from singing Happy Birthday. Thanks for joining us, Chris. It's we were talking before we started recording. It's been a bit of time since we first reached out to you. A strike or two might have happened since then, but it's great to have you here, and we'll roll right into our questions.
Yeah, I wish we had been keeping a tally of every guest we've talked to who's been like, yeah, you need to get Chris Fisher on. Just bring him on. So now we can say we have.
There we go.
Awesome.
Yeah. As we've done with all those folks, Chris, I like to go way back to perhaps your childhood and find out, how did you get the filmmaking bug? What got you inspired to join this crazy career?
Yeah. So the short answer is my family. We moved to Saudi Arabia when I was in first grade, and I hadn't really found any movies or TV shows before. By kindergarten, that was anything that I really fell in love with. So we moved to Saudi Arabia we were there for 5 years. And there was no Western media there allowed at all. This is like zero, no movies, no TV, no nothing. And you live in a compound, and this is back in a different era, even in the Middle East. So I kind of just fell in love with my dinky toys and D&D, and a couple of the ships that I had that I was able to build. You were able to build models, like everything that you brought into Saudi had to go through the sort of religious police, but Star Trek models made it through. So I was able to build an Enterprise, and I would have the Enterprise fight my dinky toys, and then Godzilla come in, and just so I started creating my own, like most of the directors like myself started creating my own like little mini movies back when I was a kid, especially because we didn't have any other entertainment. Then when we came back to the States when I was in sixth grade, like a reverse culture shock for me. And I had actually a really great time growing up in the Middle East, and flying hawks and riding motorbikes through sand dunes and catamaraning through the Persian Gulf, and I just had this incredible out of this world experience. Just overwhelmed by senses and sights, and a strange new world. And I found suburban America just a total nightmare, and I was just bored to shit. So I lied when I was in seventh grade and said I was 16 and got a job at Edwards Big Newport. I grew up in Orange County. Edwards Big Newport is still still like the most incredible movie theater. If you're ever in Newport Beach, go to Edwards Big Newport. So I lied and got a job there as an usher. And I would, tear tickets and clean theaters and sell popcorn. And that summer, again, having no American media, suddenly to be in this giant theater with these incredible movies. And that's how, and I worked there all through from junior high, all through high school. And, I was exposed that's my intro to Trek was Wrath of Khan and Search for Spock, both in this incredible theater that, again, I promise you, still holds a candle to the best theaters today. And that I was sort of hooked by that. And again, I didn't know anything about Hollywood or anything like that, but I got into USC and I went there to study film and ended up with a degree in philosophy. I wouldn't say I got discouraged going to USC Film School, but it felt like all the other kids there knew exactly what they were doing and exactly, who their dad was. And there seemed to be a real clear path for a lot of kids. And I was like, what am I dealing with here? Like, I'm so in over my head. Like, I really want to do this, but like, is this realistic? And nothing's more or less realistic than being a philosophy major. So, why I decided to do that, who the fuck knows? But I ended up just falling and, I stayed in love with film, but fell in love with philosophy, ended up going to law school at USC. I got really interested in storytelling as sort of a tool for inculcating values, and like Homer and Hesiod, the Iliad and the Odyssey, sitting around a campfire telling stories about life, and I realized that's what I loved about cinema, and maybe I just have maybe there's a more direct path for me through law. So I spent 3 years in law school and finished law school, and it was a quick realization that law school, which was by far the best experience of my life, not even close. You spend 3 years studying what the law ought to be, what should the law be? How should we run a society? You're with 200 other incredibly bright kids, and you're just, arguing and discussing every day. It's truly like Socratic method and all those great things. It was the best experience. And then I took a job at a law firm, and it was like instant hell. I what the fuck? How did they let me do this for 3 years and tell me this is what I had to do? And I never gave up my love for film. I'll say I kept writing while I was in law school. I kept writing scripts. I really just wanted to be a writer at that point. So I kept writing. And so when I was a lawyer for a grand total of probably about 3 weeks, and I said, fuck it, this is not for me. I don't want to do this. I was, 24. I still had some time to make some lateral moves. So I got a job at William Morris in the William Morris training program, which is still sort of like, even today, it's like I had a meeting at Netflix the other day, and both the guys were out of, they were running Netflix. They're like 22 years old. That place is crazy, but they were both straight out of the William Morris training program too. It's still the shit. And it was like, this is exactly what I want to be. This is, I knew pretty quickly I didn't want to be an agent, but I knew I just felt at home. I felt like I wanted to give it another shot. Like I got discouraged when I was 19 years old in film school. I felt overwhelmed by some of the other kids there. And I've grown up now, right? I'm now in my mid 20s, and I have a little bit more spine, and I was ready to fight for what I loved a little bit more. And it was at William Morris for a couple of years, jumped around different desks, both in lit and talent. And what I started doing there, which was really, really critical for my writing and for my filmmaking, is I started reading millions and millions of scripts. And I was writing coverage, right? So that a big part of your job in the training program is you write coverage, and you'll get, sometimes 3 to 5 scripts a night. So you're working, it's crazy. I went from $100,000 a year law job to making $300 a week in the William Morris training program. So when they said like free bagels on the second floor, I was literally running because I was starving. But the best thing is I got to just read all the scripts that came in, and I got to write coverage on all these scripts. Really started to understand story, really understand how narrative works, and then I got really good at that. I think partially my law training really helped me there. The combination of left right brain and the law and the creative. I could read 2 novels a night and give pretty good coverage on that. So I jumped around as a sort of creative development sort of guy. I worked for Demi Moore's company, Moving Pictures, as a D guy. I worked for a bunch of independent producers, and finally, this was probably, I think it was probably about 26, 27. I was writing coverage for a company owned by the Shaw brothers. This is Ash Shaw, Sundip Shaw, Sunil Shah, really great independent film producers, financiers. And I just kind of hit it off with, kept telling him, hey, I really want to be a writer, really want to be a writer. He's like, well, write me something good, write me something good. And, I kept trying. He's like, that's not good. And finally it hit. And I wrote a script that he loved. It was called Taboo. January Jones, Nick Stahl, Eddie K. Thomas. It was sort of like Agatha Christie, 10 Little Indians, but teenagers playing a sex game. So we packaged it with this Sundance director. So Ash was like, hey, I think we can make this movie for, really cheap in Romania. And I was like, fine. As long as, you get my movie made, I don't care how much it costs. At that point, I was like, none of the things I care about now, all the things I cry and fight over now, I didn't give a fuck about back then. Just get my movie made. So he's like, and I said, look, hey, I'm a lawyer. I kind of lied. I said, hey, I'm very familiar with EU law and I know everything about Europe and I'm blah, blah, blah. So Ash, he really believed in me. So not only did he buy my script, not only did he hire me as a producer, he sent me over to Romania with the team to produce this movie. And again, at this point, I still only wanted to be a writer. Like that was truly my passion. I really wasn't thinking about directing, not because I didn't want to do it, obviously, but again, I just felt like the luckiest person in the world already right now. Like, is this really happening? Pinch me. Like I'm, 29 years old. I'm going to Romania to make a movie. And, as it turned out, sort of like the emperor has no clothes with this director. And at some point, somebody just needed to sort of take it over. And that's what I did. That movie got into Sundance in 2002. Ash said, hey, that was awesome. Let's do that again. I'm like, I'm ready to go. And then I wrote another movie that I produced and directed called Night Stalker. And that got into Sundance again for 2003. And then I was sort of off to the races in this sort of indie genre world, which is exactly 100% the world I loved. For me, the holy trinity is horror, fantasy, and sci-fi. And of course, as you know, I got the sci-fi, but that doesn't mean I don't love horror and fantasy, which I played in for 20 years before I got into science fiction. But that really launched my independent film career. And I made another movie, Hillside Strangler. I made a movie called Dirty with Cole Hauser, Cuba Gooding, Clifton Collins. Then I got into the mini majors. I was sort of coming up to get like a real studio movie, and I was sort of out of the independent world. They don't really have these divisions now. I guess it would just be the low budget streaming movies. But back then, so it was worth like, Stage 6 over at Sony, Screen Gems over at Sony, or Fox had a division. So for Fox, I did Street Kings, Motor City, Ray Liotta, Sean Hattasy. We're always going to go here. And then I did this movie S. Darko, the Donnie Darko sequel. And that sort of put me kind of in, I guess what would be called director jail for a little bit.
And, you and Jonathan Frakes.
Yep.
But here's the great thing that came out of that. And I still made a couple movies out of it. I made this movie Meeting Evil with Sam Jackson after. So I got out. So what happened next, though, was my agents are like, well, you're probably not going to get right up to that, because that was the movie that I thought was going to get me to that next level. And it didn't. Right. So they said, well, what about TV? And I hadn't really even thought about TV. My entry into Trek was the films. So I didn't have a choice. and the necessity is the mother of invention. Right. So I went and shadowed Mark Pellington and Paris Barkley on this TV show Cold Case. And before you knock it, the Cold Case, it launched so many incredible careers. So, and the reason was this, and Mark is such an incredible director. You know him through Trek as well. And I think he did an episode this year of actually Academy. They were looking for independent filmmakers because the way Cold Case was structured, you had 4 days of just a bad, dumb procedural, right? Just, go shoot get the procedural done, and you're done. And then you have 4 days of a flashback, and it can be absolutely anything you want. So they were going after Sundance guys like myself And it was just a perfect fit. I ended up directing over 10 episodes of Cold Case. My first episode, I shot all on Super 16 in static, sort of Sally Mann-esque black and white images. I discovered Jennifer Lawrence. Not only did I discover Jennifer Lawrence, gave her first ever real role on TV, I paired her with Paula Malcolmson. So Paula was her mother. Jennifer was the daughter, and it was this really great episode, all shot in black and white, about a mother and daughter who are homeless. And it's really like beautiful stuff. I'd spend 2-3 years of my life making an independent movie. I'd go to some film festival in Montreal. It'd be me, my mom and dad, and my sister, and maybe a buddy. And like that's the audience. So now, again, with great actors, shooting black and white, doing things I was never able to do, the kind of freedom I never had actually, even in the film world. And 12 million people watched it. And it was just like an incredible sense of going back to my interest in storytelling as a way to, sort of share and inculcate values. Like, I was like, this is really what this is about. So it was like instantaneous, my love for TV. And I really just totally forgot about movies. And not that I don't want to ever go back to making films, but it was just the perfect fit. And again, one, because I'm also a writer and a director, a lot of Sundance-y type of film directors, they go into TV, they don't want to have a writer on set. They don't want a writer who's a boss, a writer showrunner. I was like, bring it, the more the better. Like, I'm a writer too. Just there couldn't be more. Tell me what you mean. I would love to shoot what you mean. Like, I was just hyper collaborative in a way that I think the TV world hadn't seen before from a sort of Sundance-y kind of guy. TV was a big hit for me. And I literally did my first Cold Case in 2007. I was just booked nonstop. I could have 10 of me and I could have got the work. And then I went up to Toronto, what was supposed to be a single episode of Warehouse 13.
Ooh.
And I have a very unique way of prepping and shooting. I'm very much a still sort of a legal mind, kind of an incredibly intense prep and shoot type of director. Not that I don't have fun on set, but like the work I do is people sometimes freak out. You have other directors like Andy Armaginian who are like, hey, like I've just stolen exactly what you do, and thank you for showing me what you do. But that show I came up, and that show was just having problem making their days. I came in there, the showrunner saw how I prepped, saw my storyboard, saw my shot list, saw the attention to detail, the sort of the obsessiveness I have to storytelling, and they're like, will you just stay? And I'm like, yeah. And so I got hired in 2008, 2009 on Warehouse 13.
Is that the show where you met Melanie Scrofano on?
That is. I hired Melanie. I not discovered her, but she was great even back then. But yeah, we hired Melanie for an amazing role there. And I've been booked as a producing director ever since. So I did that. That show went 5 seasons. And then I got poached off that show to go over to Person of Interest with J.J. Abrams and Jonah Nolan. And I did 5 seasons with J.J. and Jonah on Person of Interest, which is just an incredibly prescient show. I cannot believe people have not rediscovered that show right now. It is so fucking good. I still 2 episodes I directed for Person of Interest, but then both of them from 2012. Can you imagine how many great TV shows have been on the air since 2012? Yeah. They're still in the top 30 of all TV shows of all time. Like literally at the same level as like an Ozymandias or something like that.
Oh, wow.
But that show is just phenomenal and still hasn't got quite the attention it deserves. And then from that show, I got poached straight to go to The Magicians. And I was on The Magicians for 5 seasons with Sarah Gamble and John McNamara and our beloved Henry Alonzo Myers. So Henry and I met on The Magicians. He was not a showrunner at the beginning. They made him a showrunner, I think, the final season. But he and I worked incredibly well together. It was just, he's truly a brother to me, a mentor to me, and just a dear, dear friend. David Reed, also, who's one of our very talented writers. He was also on The Magicians. It was just a phenomenal show. So John McNamara, his wife, was running CBS Paramount at the time, Julie McNamara, being a big Trek fan, and David Reed being a big Trek fan, and Henry being a big Trek fan. Every time John's wife would come to set, she's like, this, the president of the studio, like, just tell us about Star Trek. Tell us what's going on with Discovery. Like, what's happening? Is what's Brian Fuller doing? What's Alex Kurtzman doing? We just wanted to like pick her brain. And then when the show finally kind of ended, the first call I got to move into the Star Trek world wasn't actually for Strange New Worlds. It was actually for Section 31. I started interviewing for that show. That was really exciting. And it was kind of one of those things where, like, basically, they never tell you have the job, right? Like, you really don't know until and sometimes you really don't even get the job until but it was everything that said you have the job. But then, like, the phone didn't ring for 2 months. And then what happened was Section 31 decided to push. And then when that pushed, that's when Strange New Worlds came up on my radar. And they were like, so we didn't get back to you on that, but there's this other show, Akiva Goldsman, and my mouth just dropped to the floor because there's very few godfathers like Akiva Goldsman. So the chance to work with him was just really like mind blowing. And then also to work side by side on a daily basis with Henry, someone who I had done 5 seasons ago. So anyways, that wasn't as short as I thought it was going to be. I apologize, but yeah, that's
you answered our first 3 questions in that answer, so that's perfect.
Nobody's going to be better at telling that story than you are, so it totally makes sense. And I like the point that you brought up about Cold Case and how, like, there are kinds of TV shows where people are like, I'm going to dismiss this out of hand, or I'm going to feel a way about it, but it's like, the one that I always bring up, because of the Anson Mount connection, of course, is the Britney Spears movie Crossroads, which Shonda Rhimes wrote and then created Grey's Anatomy, which has been on for like 22 years or something like that. So it's like, I feel like that journey of, go from that, not necessarily a procedural, but like a weekly TV show, right? The formula TV show that has a ton of episodes, and then turn that into a real solid career with your own ideas. I think people don't appreciate that process enough, because it's not, you don't start with a phone call from Akiva, right? Like, you have to put in the work. And man, it sounds like you really did put in the work. Like,
absolutely.
You were working for a long time.
Tailor-made yourself for Strange New Worlds.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think at this point, I've directed, over 70 episodes of television, produced over 200. So, and I'd say most of those shows are procedurals.
Yeah.
And which I actually truly love. I'm actually, actually pitching a procedure right now with Anson.
Oh man.
Yeah. So, there's something to be said with a story that begins and ends in 60 minutes and makes people feel good. There's nothing lowbrow or unsophisticated about hope, right?
Yeah.
It's okay to tell a story about justice and people feeling good. And I think those shows, they're really good about that. And that's something that TV's sort of lost in peak TV and stuff like that, like, sometimes TV just needs to be an old sweater that feels good, right?
Yes.
And that doesn't mean it's not also all these other great things. But often a lot of TV shows are not that, right? And we don't only need to be challenged as much as the philosopher in me also loves to challenge. But I always love going back to the campfire analogy and sitting around with people you care about and telling stories that matter.
I love
that.
I
just hope that Godzilla versus the Enterprise is an episode from season 4.
No kidding.
Yeah. Oh,
and guys,
just a big Gorn, really, right?
And guys, come on, let's.
I would love, man. I can't spoil anything.
This is totally a Godzilla episode.
If you knew how close you were.
Oh man,
Kaiju episode.
You heard it here first, listeners. And I'm not going to throw shade, but I do think we should take a moment of silence for the Chris Fisher version of the Section 31 show, man. I want to see that. I want to watch that TV show. So again, no shade, but I would love to see that.
Yeah, it was, man, it's there's so much heartbreak in this business, and the heartbreak is all the stuff that happens on all the projects that almost go right, and they are so truly heartbreaking. I will say there's less heartbreak in TV than film. Film is literally nothing but heartbreak, and that's not just because I'm the director of Astarco. I mean, there were many other heartbreaks along the way. Trust me. But one thing I'm gonna bury myself here. But I'm gonna pump S. Darko for a second. Do you know who shot S. Darko? The DP.
I don't.
Marvin Rush.
Oh,
Okay.
Marvin Rush, Marvin Rush is one of my probably my top mentor, the person who taught me more at filmmaking. Marvin Rush was the DP for over 250 episodes of Star Trek.
Wow.
Marvin
Wow.
Rush literally invented green screen shooting. Marvin Rush, he's old school, Trek to the bone, literally the most phenomenal guy in the world. And we shot S. Darko. We were the first, the red one, shooting digitally, and Marvin spearheaded that whole thing. So yeah, it was a great experience just to work with him again. So
I mean, the man's IMDb known for 4 items are Star Trek Voyager, Star Trek Enterprise, Star Trek Deep Space Nine, and Star Trek The Next Generation. I don't know how many other people you can say that about on IMDb.
That's the goal.
Marvin is
better than an EGOT.
They broke the mold when they made Marvin. He's the hardest working person I've ever met in my life. There's no one in the trenches that works harder for him. I have this incredible ability to push on through, but he's the only person in this business that has ever carried me on his back, and he's done it multiple times. He's just that kind of guy.
That's awesome.
But boy, does he love Trek.
That is a great history, Chris. I gotta say, you forgot to mention one thing, and we had one of our callers actually wrote in to ask. Elizabeth wrote in. She said she'd like to know about your handle and website, Widget Factory. She says, I see it pop up as a social media handle and website name, and it made me wonder if there's a story behind it. Also, it made me smile to see some credits for the TV show Moonlight in Chris's filmography. So, Widget
that's
Factory.
great. Yeah, so widgets in the legal world, widgets are make-believe things, right? Like when you're studying a case, X corporation made 5,000 widgets and sold those 5,000 widgets, and then they didn't pay their bill, and there's that breach of contract. So widgets are imaginary things. So it's the imaginary company. So that's the Widget Factory is the imagination factory.
Perfect.
So that's
cool.
how that's my production company name. That's what I use for my my Instagram and my Twitter. But yeah, it actually came from my law school days.
That's awesome.
Excellent.
And Moonlight. Oh yeah. So one of my best friends is this guy, Alex O'Loughlin. Alex was the star of Hawaii Five-0 for 10 seasons. Alex is a phenomenal guy. And this is the show that he and I met on. And it was this really fun vampire romance fantasy. It was a really beautiful, fun show to work on. This back in the Warner Brothers TV days. We shot it on the Warner Brothers lot. It was, just a truly great experience.
Very cool.
Tangentially related, did you guys hear Paul Wesley is going to be in Fortnite
I did.
as his character
Yeah.
from Vampire Diaries? Like, I've
Really?
never played that game, but I saw an ad and I was like, that is Paul Wesley. Like, that is so cool to me.
My office is next to our cast coordinator, has the unenviable job of going through some of the fan mail. But it's like Paul Stacks here. Everyone else is like this. Like still,
Yeah.
it's incredible, the fan base for that show and the fans' adoration for him. And he's so good about it. He's always taking time to do events, always taking time, making that extra effort. It's a lot.
Dude makes a pretty all right bourbon, I'll say. Like, we had some in Vegas last time. It's like, okay, that hits.
Isn't it fucking great?
Yeah.
Dude, yeah.
I know. I had to I think I got in trouble. So Frank Siracusa, who's one of the other exec producers, our Toronto exec producer, Paul kept bringing me bottles, so I was like, I'm working 14 hours a day, 7 days a week. So if I don't drink in the office, where else am I going to drink? And he's like, you got to put that away. And he's like, literally every time, like I maybe took it out 3 times to try it, and all 3 times it was just when Frank happened to walk by my house.
Just be polite, okay? It's Paul Wesley.
Yeah, exactly. I blamed it on Paul. So
That's amazing.
All right. Well, can you briefly explain to us what it is you do on the show as a producing director? And I know that may be tough because you do a lot on the show.
A lot.
I would say the easiest way to understand it is I'm the visual language arm of the showrunner.
Okay.
So unlike most everyone else on the show who sort of answers to the studio, to the line producer, the producing director, and even an executive producing director like myself, we are hired by the showrunners. We live and die by the showrunners, and trust me, Akiva and Henry never would ask me to, but I would fall on a million swords for those guys. So really, my job is to really understand what the showrunners want. What kind of show do they want to make, and you do that mostly by listening. And especially when you have someone like Akiva. But finding out the show they want to make, the type of culture they want to create, and go and make it for them, right? Because they're not in Toronto. So I'm in Toronto. I'm full-time in Toronto. I'm the boots on the ground executive producer in charge of everything creative. There's a million decisions that have to happen on the fly, split decisions, big ones, small ones, all sorts of different ones. There are some decisions, of course, that we can get ahead of, and then we schedule meetings for those. And then Akiva and Henry, the showrunners, will actually, answer all those themselves. They don't need me to add to that or interpret that. But again, nothing ever happens as it's supposed to. But all the things that we can get ahead of, we set meetings for to have, collaboration discussion. Then once you're in production and you're on the floor and there's a million things happening and decisions need to be made. And if unless Henry and Akiva happen to be up on set, then those sort of things come down on me. There's a humility to the job in the sense that, obviously I am a filmmaker, but I am not the showrunner, and not all executive producers are created equally. And TV is no democracy, right? It's truly not, and not in a bad way. It shouldn't be. I happen just to truly love the show that Akiva and Henry pitched to me, like way back in the day. I'm like, oh my God, that's exactly the show I want to make. So I felt like our stars were aligned, or our interests were aligned, our tastes were aligned. And it directed 6 episodes of the show. And 5 of the 6, when I turned in my director's cut, I just got phone calls from my bosses, just effusive and, blown away and loved it. One of them, not so much. But,
is that one we've seen yet, or one we have yet to see?
Yeah. One of you guys have seen. Yeah, season 2, Broken Circle. I had a different take on it than they did. There's a million things I do. A big thing I do is I run the virtual production, which is a huge part of our show. I actually just wrote a book on virtual production that's getting published in August.
Oh.
So that was something that incredibly exciting and very Star Trek, right? Like that is the future. That is the future of filmmaking, and Star Trek Strange New Worlds is the world leader in this technology. And the team that, especially with Jason Zimmerman, who ran the virtual art department, we really became the world leaders in that. So there's a million things I do on the daily basis, but the best way to understand the job of a producing director is the showrunners are back in LA, where the writer's room is and where editorial is, where post is. Back in the day when everything shot in LA, there weren't really that many producing directors, right? There were still some, but very few, because when there was a question on set, a problem on set, a question in prep, a problem with the director, all you had to do is walk out of your office and walk next door to the stage. But Toronto's a 3-hour time difference. It's a 6-hour flight. There's all these other things. And it ends up actually just working out well. So the showrunners can focus on the stories and the scripts and the post, and then they have someone that ultimately they trust. So the one and only thing you need to have to be a producing director is you need to have the trust of your showrunners. There's nothing else you need. You can make mistakes. I sure do. But ultimately those guys know that I have their backs and that I know the show they want to make. I know, except for maybe one episode. But I know the show they want to make, and I love making it with them. Like, so I think it has to go both ways, right? Because you can't be of service to someone else's vision unless you actually also really love it. I do truly, deeply love it.
Excellent.
So I have a really nerdy question here. And so a lot of actors and folks that we've talked to have talked about the AR wall and how it's like this is like a real life holodeck, or it's kind of like being inside a video game
100%.
sort of thing.
It is exactly that. It's not kind of. It
Have
is
you-
exactly that.
So have you ever thought to yourself, like, I want to plug video game X into this and play it in this
GoldenEye.
crazy...
Hell yes.
Yeah, like,
Are you kidding me?
like Chris,
Absolutely. It doesn't
what
work like
game?
that, unfortunately. Believe me, that's the first thing I fucking asked. Oh my God, we're gonna like God of War. We were gonna like shut the show down and just play God of War during the pandemic. Like, I mean, are you kidding me? Could you imagine how fucking cool that would be? And like actually have and suddenly the art department starts building like God of War stuff. Like, what are we doing? Like,
Hey, did you hire stunt guys for this? Like, what's going on?
Yeah. So it's the same exact software. It's the same principles, but it's not a plug-in, unfortunately.
Gotcha.
Otherwise, we would have fucking done it. I
It's
swear to God, we would have
tied to
done
the camera.
We have huge game. Ethan's a huge gamer.
Mhm.
There's a lot of gamers on the show. Celia's a big gamer. So we would have definitely gone nuts. Thank God it doesn't work. But you know what? All of our success is because it doesn't play video games.
All right, guys, we're building our own AR wall. We're porting video games to it. We're going to make bank renting it out for parties.
Chris, why does your cut of the Broken Circle half take place in ancient Greece?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, don't worry, I promise it
Exactly.
makes sense.
Well, we do have
Yeah,
some
yeah.
great callers tonight. Let's hear from the first one. Here's our good friend Melanie.
Hi guys, and hello Chris. I'm Melanie from Germany, and I'm a huge fan of Captain Pike and of Anson Mount and of his portrayal of Pike, as most people listening to this podcast should know by now. I'm on holiday in Austria this time for skiing, but I always have my equipment with me, so I just wanted to say how much I love the quality of Mercy. What really stayed with me is that even though it echoes Balance of Terror, it doesn't feel like a remake. It feels much more like a study of Pike, especially his leadership style. The tensions feels emotional and moral, and not just tactical. Pike leads with empathy, and we actually see how that changes the outcome. That's such an interesting and bold choice. I also really noticed how much space you allow in the quiet scenes, especially between Pike and Spock. Those pauses feel heavy, almost inevitable, because Pike already knows his future. So I was wondering, when you directed that episode, were you thinking of it primarily as a character piece about leadership? And how different was your approach compared to something darker and more intense like Hegemony? Thank you for bringing so much depth and tonal range to the series. Live long and prosper, Melanie.
What a great question. I mean, yes. That's definitely going to be an episode that will stand the test of time. It's nice to see that. I was just looking, and not that I'm hooked on ratings or anything, but like it's still the top rated show of the series, even after 3 great seasons, that season 1 finale. Yeah, there was never like, let's remake Balance of Terror. There was definitely, let's pay homage to Balance of Terror. And I forget where it is, and it's towards the end of the show. I forget where I put it in, but there's a scene that I shot almost shot for shot, block for block. Like there's one scene I just really went for it, and I literally did Balance of Terror, and it was really super fun. But that was it. After that, exactly as Melanie was suggesting, it was all about Anson, and he and I were very close. We were good friends before this show. We did a show together called The Inhumans, which was also not a great show. But by the time Anson and I got to the show, like I was like raising my hand, like who decided to do a show set on the dark side of the moon in Hawaii? There's no dark side of the moon locations in Hawaii. Everything is like green, and the extras would show up for their dark side of the moon battles, and they'd have sunglass lines and stuff like that. And but Anson and I knew each other really well, so we spent a lot of time talking. We spent a lot of time hanging out. This is a season 1 show, right? So you have to go back in time, and like no ratings have come out, no reviews have come out. We had no idea if we were making something people liked. We knew we were making something that we loved, but we didn't have any idea that we were making something that was going to go 5 seasons. And you always think this could be it, right? Like you never know. So he and I really like we took the gloves off, and he I really respect his method. He really respects my method, and we really dug our teeth into this one. We worked so hard on this episode. We hired a lot of the times, like for example, just the way you do the double scenes. Generally, how you do that is you just hire a stand-in and you shoot like over the shoulders like that. We didn't. We hired a real actor, and we brought this actor in weeks early and for long rehearsals. So Anson and him could really work body language and stuff to that together, and also so Anson could really have a really great scene partner. So he wouldn't just be talking to somebody who didn't have actor training. So his performance was accomplished through weeks of rehearsal, lots of specific planning, and just lots of conversations about what his character means to him, what it means to the show. And I think you hit it on the head. He leads by empathy, and another way of saying that too is he leads by asking questions, right? Our beloved Kirk, shoot from the hip, instinct, gut. And Pike asks questions. He leads by asking questions. It's so beautiful. It's so timely, so perfect for this world we live in. And it is empathy, but it's also sort of like a true love of teamwork. He really just loves to get his hands dirty with his team and trust the people who hey, these guys are everyone on this crew is better than me at what they do. My job is not to direct them, to tell them what to do, to captain them. I'm going to take the helm by asking questions. And Anson and I fought. We did the closing song, which I'm going to forget now, which was my choice. I ended up winning. I probably cheated. I just probably put it in the cut and didn't tell him. But we both fought over the final song. He had another song in mind. But we were that's how close we are when we work together. We're talking about the needle drop and the score for every scene. That's how granular we get. That's how deep we get. And Anson's tough on set, right? He really challenges me and pushes me. He demands the best of me. I don't know if that's the right answer to Melanie's question. Her question was so damn good. I want to put her question on a t-shirt and wear it.
Look, I don't want to simplify it, but you talked about Anson, so Melanie's happy.
Yeah. Well, and we have said this before, our callers could literally make this show without us. The way that they ask questions and the insight that they have is stuff where it's we could spend a week writing that question in an outline for an interview, and they're like, well, this is the exact one thing I want to know. So thank you, Melanie, for continuing to prove us right about that.
One thing I'd love to add too, because it hasn't been said, I don't know if it's been said out loud yet. And so, I can be an esoteric artist, but as a producer, I'm a very practical producer. I'm a very get the job done producer. The one thing that made our show a success, it was Anson decided just day one. So what generally happens on a TV show, especially in a TV show that has really long periods in between takes, we're setting up, elaborate crane shots. We're setting up motion control shots. The time between shots is not small. Our shots are complicated. They take time. So what happens is on every other show I've ever been on, the cast goes back to their trailers, right? They go back to we call cut, say it's going to be 30 minutes before the next scene, and everyone goes back to their trailers. And when they go back to their trailers, some take naps, some make calls, some work, some do whatever. Anson decided as number one on the call sheet that that's not what was going to happen. Anson asked for plastic chairs right on the side of the set. And for 5 seasons, we never, ever had an actor go back to their trailer in between shots, in between sets. And what they did is they sat there together. They rehearsed. They were available for the directors. They were available to answer questions. They could they sat in plastic chairs, and we ended up having to bring the hair makeup people into this weird little mini plastic chair room. So when we called the actors generally when you say, hey, we're ready for the actors, instead of waiting 10, 15, 20 minutes, for them all to come from their trailers, which are really far away, especially again in a cold weather place like Toronto where things are packed away. Everyone was right there. And they were all there looking at the storyboards and like it just created this. It was like a very simple decision he made. That simple decision set the tone and the culture for the entire series.
Very nice.
That's really cool.
That's amazing.
And you hear Patrick Stewart was too serious in the first season of TNG, and the other actors were like, "Hey, man, lighten up!" Like, we've never heard anything but positivity about Anson from literally everyone we've ever talked to. Like, but we have not heard that particular thing. That's really cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
it was cool. It was a great decision he made as a leader to really put the show front and center, and it paid so many dividends. It saved us so many times, like because we literally still barely made every day, right? So like
Right.
There's that saying in film, you never finish, you just ran out of time.
Mhm.
So but we ran out of time with 5 to 10 extra shots every day.
Well, speaking of making decisions, how do you decide which episodes you're going to direct each season?
So Henry and Akiva are great with really letting me, for the most part, choose the directors. It's a big part, I think, of another big part of the producing directing job.
Mm.
And so we start that process really early. I'll send them I'll send them a list of the directors that I'm hoping to have the season. They'll always add one or take one away or something like that. And then we start talking right then about just the season as a whole. So one of the things we have to do on Strange New Worlds, because we have virtual production, is we have to think of the season way earlier than most shows. And by way earlier, I mean, I'm talking 14 weeks. 14 weeks before day one of shooting the first episode, we need to know basically the whole season. And that's the only way we can schedule and structure the virtual production. Mm-hmm. So that pays a lot of other dividends, right? It gets information out there early. It makes the writers, it's frustrating to the showrunners. They have to break the season very early, sometimes without a full writing staff, so it is pressure on them, but they, there's no bigger supporter of the virtual production than Akiva. He really sees the benefits of it. We would start thinking of directors as 14 weeks out. So that gave us a lot of time to really kind of carefully pick them. Our directors were obviously in very high demand, did have conflicts, so we wanted to also be able to book them early, which we were also able to do this way. So again, it's the dividends of thinking of the show earlier just pay so much. Part of the producing, directing job historically is you do the biggest episodes, the premieres and the finales. Season 5, I will say, I broke that up. I gave Dan Liu, who's been one of our, we've had many great directors, but he's definitely one of them, a phenomenal storyteller. We gave him the premiere for season 5, which is very exciting. So we broke that rule a little bit. And I season 5, I ended up doing the penultimate episode, and Akiva directed the finale, as you guys know from being up there.
Yep.
Yeah. So again, historically, I would want to do, what I thought was the most important episode. For example, A Quality of Mercy. I definitely wanted to close out season 1. Then I would definitely wanted to start season 2. And then in season 3, I couldn't decide whether I wanted to do the finale or the premiere. And I ended up wanting to do after watching Maya do such a phenomenal job with the season 2.
How does it work for Jonathan Frakes? Does he just call whenever he feels like it? Or do you guys think like, okay, this would be a great Frakes episode. Let's see if he's available. Because I mean, the guy, it seems like he can just go to A-Trek production and be like, hey, I'm here. When's my episode?
He's just such a great guy, right? So, he keeps conversation very open. He's texting me, texting Akiva, texting Henry. He's just constantly in communication. He's just family, right? So we certainly try to pair a director with the material in the right way. And that therein the complicated, like, what is the right way? So it's not just hire a comedy director for a comedy, but sometimes it's like hiring a director, for a storyline that, we know is going to lead to a bigger episode. But again, with Jonathan, because he's also doing all the other Trek shows and a bunch of other stuff, it's also just making sure that he's available for the one we want. Unlike our other directors, he's just in constant communication with everyone and always just checking in, seeing what we need, how he can help, how he can be of service to the show. And the cast doesn't really get a vote in directors, but unofficially they do. Unofficially they get a big vote. And like whenever there's a big cast episode, they all want Frakes, right?
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As you say, you kind of pair up a lot of directors. A lot of the time you do pair them with, the zombie guy with the zombie episode, the documentarian with the documentary episode, and so on. Have you ever picked a director who maybe on paper wasn't the exact fit, but you like instinctively had a hunch they could knock this episode out of the park?
I think if we would have been doing like 22 episodes a season, we would have had a little bit more of that flavor. But no, we were pretty specific with our hires. But again, it wasn't always sort of what you would see as the obvious connection. But no, we would not have hired a horror director to do a comedy or hired a comedy director to do a horror. Again, I think we would have had more fun with that if the shows weren't so precious, right? But like, when you work for 6 years on something and you only make 56 episodes, every single one of them has to, there's a lot of pressure with that. I think one of the real benefits from having longer seasons, more episodes, is the pressure's off a little bit. And sometimes the best episodes come out of that sort of like taking the pressure off a little bit, those in between the lines episodes. So sometimes those are great. And, I don't think, in the way that current TV works with the budget levels and stuff like that, you don't have as much of that freedom to do that type of stuff.
Okay. Yeah. Well, if I may, one of the things I do here is fail to ask a question and just give a compliment. You guys are crushing it. Like, you're pairing the directors with their episodes really well. I know we cannot wait to see Jordan Canning's puppet episode. Like,
oh man,
we've been waiting for that since before it was announced.
It's that's a perfect example of like, oh my God, we just have like, there's literally one director in the world who I think could do that episode, and it was her. I mean, like her resume was like basically like someone chat GPT to fake resume to direct this episode. I was like, no, like this is bullshit. Like you didn't do like all the best Fraggle Rocks and also science fiction, also VFX. Like, but Jordan Canning, she's just one of those bad. I really bow down to her. She's one of I would say is like Frakes. I'm more of like an old school director. Like I wouldn't say the actors really love me. Like I'm not out looking for that anyways. But Jordan's kind of like Frakes, right? Like it's just like a love fest. Like the set is just a love fest. That's just like, and they're having dinner every night and they're hanging out and it's just awesome, And so we really need people like her and Frakes, to balance the fuddy-duddies like me.
She's also got a great podcast, listeners. If you're looking for another one, go check out Mandatory Viewing. Absolutely recommend.
We do have some mandatory listening here. Here is our good friend and caller, Abby.
Hey, Open Pike and Chris. Abby Summer from the First Flight podcast here. First of all, thank you, Chris, for all the great work that you do on Strange New Worlds and beyond. You have immense talent, and I hope you continue to get to spread that to the galaxy for quite a few years after now. All right, my question is, can you tell me one shot that you are particularly proud of from the work you did on Star Trek? Can you tell me a shot that you wish you could redo? And can you tell me one that took way more work than anyone who sees it would have expected? Hope this finds you and yours well. We'll talk soon.
Oh, that's great. There's two shots that come to mind. Of the episodes I can talk about. Sure. There's so many on the ones I can't.
We'll get you back at the end. Don't worry.
Quality of Mercy, in the scene what I was talking about, where we do this really incredible push-in on Spock's face before he does his eyebrow lift. And in the original, back in TOS, they did it on like a Zoom, and we didn't have access to a Zoom, so I did it on a crane. But the distance. The crane, like we were literally on a 50-foot techno, which is the kind of thing you usually shoot, use to shoot like Godzilla or something like that. And we're using it for a close up of an eyebrow. Like it was like the weirdest, most obtuse use of this tech for that shot. So and I thought the whole time I'm shooting, like there's no way this is going to cut. There's no way this is going to cut. It's way too long. But you know what? Because the audience knew what was happening. They knew the moment, that everybody's anticipation. It just like, wait for it. And then Ethan fucking delivers. I mean, like, again, like, how did we know to cast Ethan? How could he do that with his eyebrow? That's like, he really can do that. So that was a shot that I really loved. There was a shot in Broken Circle, which ended up being cool, but wasn't as cool as I imagined it. It was a shot when Mbanga and Chapel are fighting, and we did a shot. It was a trick photography shot where I had Babs just positioned on a ladder just above the lens, and as he dropped, I did a spin with him to make it feel like he's twisting, and then so it was planned perfectly, but that we were shooting on the disco sets, and we just didn't have the measurements correctly. We had mismeasured some stuff, so it didn't work exactly like it would. And I really wanted to go back and reshoot it, but hence disco needed their sets back. So that was a shot, and again, I still think it's one of the cooler shots in the cut. But that's definitely one I wish I could do over again.
So when we did visit the set, we got to watch Andrew Coots, right?
Yeah, Andrew Coots.
Coots, okay. We got to watch Andrew Coots in action, editing the episode as it was being shot, since it was the wrap and they needed to make sure they got everything. We heard he learned that from working on your episodes. Why was having that workflow important to you?
I'd love just to give a quick shout out about Andrew. So Andrew is not just a producer on the show and an editor on the show. He's a director on the show. As you know, he directed maybe the best episode of season 3. He and I, like, it was like two directors talking about how great it would be to have it be like the old days when, an editor would at least come by set, watch some scenes. They'd understand what the director was trying to do. They'd see the shot. They'd see why they're going again. Like, so you just save a lot of time by having a editor just observe, just be there to observe. And he's like, well, let's go a step further. Like, well, let me just come up and edit with you. And I go, are you for real? So we set it up. I think we actually did it. We started doing it season 3. We started doing it season 3, and it just was the best experience for both of us. And Andrew and I, again, are very like-minded in how we see science fiction too. So it was just great because we could just like clip through things right there, and some of them say, oh, well, did that kind of step on the script supervisor's job? In fact, again, like, embracing technology instead of being afraid of it, like, actually made their job so much better. Then they're able to focus on like all these other things instead of continuity, because like continuity is being handled by editorial. They were working with the actors, and like, anyways, it was just like a real great experience for both Andrew and I. And then I had continued to have him coming up, and I would offer it to some other directors, but it just kind of, people didn't understand it, but Akiva did. The only thing bummer about, and again, all of our editors are so great on the show. 505, the penultimate, which I directed, I'm really proud of that episode. And Wes did a great job editing it. But Andrew and Akiva also just was a love fest. Like, Akiva loved having him up there, loved being able to see his cuts. We set up a little mini post bay in my office. So after Akiva and Andrew we'd finish shooting for the day, Akiva and Andrew would just come back to my office, sit in my office, and like watching cuts, cutting little mini trailers together, little things, like just like you're literally just working and like, jumping into it. Again, it's one of these things that have happened by moving production outside of LA, that having the editor, it really tightly knit to production. Going forward, if I'm going to actually try to make that part of the process. It's that helpful for the show.
Excellent.
So you're trying to steal Anson and the editor is what I'm getting. All right. Okay. It's a good idea.
Yeah.
Hey, he's,
Right.
show's wrapped, man. They got to work.
You're setting yourself up for success here, man.
I mean, maybe we'll just go shoot on our stages. They're still up, so maybe we'll go up there and shoot something. Get everyone together.
Yeah.
We'll call it something else.
We got our final caller for tonight, and we'll ask you to put your producer hat on for this one because there's a little bit of overlap. But here's our good friend Platty.
Hey there, Open Pike Night. This is Platty M3 calling in to hear some hits, shits, and giggles from your guest you've got there, Chris Fisher. Hey, Chris, my name's Matt. Usually when I call in Open Pike Night, I usually talk the good, the bad, and the just hilarious, thus the hits, shits, and giggles. But I'd like to hear from you with your time with Strange New Worlds. What is either a scene or an episode that you think that you were a big part of that just knocked it out of the ballpark, was a total hit? What is one that you were like, ah, shit, I wish I would have done something a little bit different? Doesn't have to be big, just maybe a scene that you wish you would have shot a different way or produced a different way. And what is something that has just totally cracked you up and made you giggle on set with the crew? I'll sit back and listen here in the future. This is Platty M3 signing off.
I can't help but tease what's coming. So I directed the premiere of season 4, the finale of season 4, and the penultimate episode of season 5. Those are the 3 best episodes I've directed by far. And that includes Quality of Mercy. So the best is yet to come. Those are the hits.
Man.
Very,
Well done,
very, very excited about all 3 of those. As far as the misses go, this is probably, I don't want to get too lost in the technical side of this, but when we were handed the keys to the show and given this AR wall, this virtual production set, it was the middle of a pandemic. Not only could we not go to Morocco or Iceland or someplace exotic like Mandalorian and these other shows went, we couldn't even go to the parking lot, right? You're eating 3 meals a day in the bubble. So we had to really buy into virtual production. It was the only way. We had a show called Strange New Worlds that was in a warehouse in Mississauga. Like there was nothing strange and new and worldly about that. So we literally had to buy hook, line, and sinker into this technology. And the show was going to live or die on virtual production, flat out. So we made a big adjustment season 1. What we did is we said, okay, you know what? Wave the white flag. We don't know enough about virtual production to marry it with our normal schedule. So what we're going to do is we're going to remove it from the episodic schedule and create it. It's like its own tandem unit for the whole season. It's its own movie. Here's Star Trek Strange New Worlds. Everything except for virtual production is going to shoot like a normal show with our directors in order. And then we're going to do this tandem unit and we're going to learn it. And I had to go ask the DGA for special permission, a sort of get out of jail free card to do it this way. Because ultimately what ended up happening is I ended up directing pretty much all of the virtual production episodes for season 1. So season 1, everything in the AR wall ended up kind of falling on me. And again, the learning curve was steep. And ultimately it was just one of those things that, not that I wasn't happy with the work I did, but it was again, one of the big things about the DGA is authorship, right? And another big thing about our show is we always said here's how we got the best directors in Hollywood. We said, what we're doing is we're not doing a TV show. We're doing 10 Star Trek movies by 10 Star Trek directors. Even me, the producing director, I'm not doing multiple episodes. I only get one. I get one just like you. We do not block shoot. We do not crossboard. You go do your movie. We are hiring you to go do your movie and you do whatever the fuck you want, but make it fucking great. And we kind of broke our own rule with this. And it was it's something that it hit me, but it also motivated me to change things starting season 2. And season 2, again, like I always say, like season 1 was like we got the keys to Ferris Bueller's dad's Ferrari, and like we're like ripping around Chicago, we had to learn it, right? But by season 2, we did learn it, and by season 2, we completely changed the game. All of our guest directors directed all of their own virtual production scenes. So with giving us the DGA giving us a little bit of leeway to figure out this new technology, we actually really flipped the switch and actually really doubled down with authorship. So that's my I guess my miss. But it has a silver lining to it. As far as laughing, giggles, the dog's on set. Runa, the cute, like so. Chrissy Chong's dog. This thing is just the cutest damn thing you've ever seen in your life, and it's the most well-behaved, most best trained dog. The thing goes everywhere on set. Everywhere they go, there's like no place you don't go, and this dog's just running around, jumping through, going through shots. It's just like that was like the levity that we all needed. It's just having this really incredible furry little creature that was just the cutest thing ever, just being a total part of our family. That was a big hit for all 5 seasons.
Getting to meet Runa
fantastic.
on set was pretty much as big a thrill as seeing any of the Star Trek sets.
Yeah.
I mean, is it like the nicest, cutest, perfectest little
I was
dog?
like, oh, hi, nice to see you,
I mean,
Chrissy. Can I touch your dog, please?
Yeah.
Yeah,
And-
exactly.
And Platty is going to love that answer because he once famously called in and had his dog ask Runa out as part of one of his calls. She did decline, but he did do
He
it.
took a shot.
Along those lines of the AR wall versus sets, like, for example, Academy has, I think, the biggest set Star Trek has ever had, possibly the biggest set in North America currently.
Yeah.
Our friend Elizabeth asked in the Discord, do you feel like the tone or energy of a production shifts with the heavier use of practical sets versus the AR wall, or is it just, a different set of tools?
It's a great question. There's a steep learning curve. So I would say the tone, there was a lot of anxiousness season 1 that really went away by season 2. Seasons 2, 3, 4, and 5 were really the scenes on the AR wall were just as free and open, just as much improv from the actors. There was no preciousness at all. All that was gone. Like it was just another place to look. I mean, ultimately, the one and only purpose of a brick wall or a $10 million virtual production volume is to photograph an actor saying words, right? Like it's just a place to tell a story with an actor. So the first thing that happens to every single person, I don't care who you are, when you walk onto a virtual production set, is your mouth drops. And you stand there like in awe, like where does the digital end? Where does the practical begin? Like, so we were all kind of gaga season 1. And I think there was also maybe a little preciousness to it, and maybe, way better acting, obviously, than it would ever happen on a green screen stage, because you don't have some guy like me pointing at an X. The X is the dragon. The X over there is the spaceship. Here comes the dragon and the spaceship, and you're gonna die. And like the actors are like, can someone fucking get this guy a shrink? Like, so like the days of a director like just acting out this fake green screen battle are just gone. Like, so you just everyone can see the dragon, everyone can see the spaceship. We're all okay here. So, so again, like, so I think, maybe I'm nitpicking a little bit, because like the performances in virtual production are astronomically better than green screen. And just look at a Marvel movie, hate to say it, but to see why, like our actors are really fully they're engulfed in this world. Like they are in it. It's immersive. It's real. They can see it. They can touch it. It's there. Once we lost that preciousness of season 1, and and just started treating it like just any old place to photograph an actor telling a story, then we really got our handle. We really got our hands around it.
Well, speaking of those performances and actors saying lines, you kind of alluded to your relationship with actors. I'm curious, like, how you do direct the actors, and if we want to talk specifics. One of my favorite moments from the last season was near the end of Hegemony Part 2, when Captain Pike breaks down and starts praying for Batel. And we talked about that scene with Davey, but I'd love to hear kind of your take on it as the director. Like, how did you approach that scene and get what I think was an incredibly effective performance?
Yeah, God, wasn't that a great performance? Yeah, that was fun being on set with Davey for that. Every actor is different, right? There's no like, I think if you come to directing, this is how I direct, you're just immediately going to fail. I mean, the most important thing to remember about directing is that it's criticism, right? You're telling someone, don't stand like that, stand like this. Don't sit there, sit here. Raise your right hand when I say the word the, and raise your like. So it's absolutely horrific to be directed. It's terrible. So you recognize that the directing is criticism. So how do you couch it? How do you make, like, the number one thing of a director is how do you make directing not feel like directing? How do you make it not feel like criticism? So you ask questions and you talk to actors and you learn about how they kind of people they are. And so I don't have any way of directing actors. I wish I learned something I could apply to every show, so I wouldn't have to start from the bottom again. But you always start from the bottom. You start from meeting the people and what works for them, how they respond to it, what makes them feel comfortable. Because everyone, like I said, not only the virtual production set, but every person on the crew is in service of this performance. That's the only thing you're doing is recording a performance. With Anson, again, I'm lucky to have a long-term friendship with him. But he really took that scene. He really took that. Davey and I, we were flies on the wall there, and there's more of that to come from him. If you really like that sort of brutal, sort of emotional bloodletting, there's more of that to come in the seasons that have yet to be seen.
You're gonna make us cry.
Yeah, he's so good at that kind of stuff. He really is. The trick with him is, don't over direct him, don't overtake him. I don't think he'd be a big Fincher fan. Anson needs to know where the cameras are, right? Like, he doesn't want 3 cameras just sticking into a set and not knowing what's there. It's there's a specificity. So So again, in scenes like that, it makes you as a director really decide what the best shot is. And of course, there isn't. That's one of the directorisms. There is no best shot, but you have to choose it then. And then you have to choose it quick, and you have to stick to it. And as often is the case, the best decision is the earlier one, right? That doesn't fuck up his process, get in the way of him, and you don't want to be changing cameras or changing things. And why it takes him quite a bit of work to get into that state. An exception to my green plastic chair room, when Anson has a moment like that coming up, he'll separate himself from the cast. He'll separate himself from the rest of production. He'll come to me days before, maybe sometimes weeks before, like, hey, let's talk about the scene. I want to know what you want. I want to get to it. Then I want to go work on it. And I don't want to be like noted while it's happening. And sometimes that works, right? And then sometimes you do have to note them, and then you say you're sorry, but that's not what I want. But that was not the case for that.
I believe Jonathan Frakes is jokingly noted for his one note to actors being faster. Do you have one note that you typically give to actors over and over on Strange New Worlds?
No, Jonathan and I had definitely different styles. He does something else that's so fun, but it was like a day player who was doing something there, and Jonathan's like, you don't need to know how this works. You don't need to know any of this stuff. They need to think and so act like you know what you're doing. Like that's the beauty of Jonathan. Jonathan's got all those. I mean, he's got all those great directorisms. I don't got those. I don't got those. I just say things. I wish I had those.
And I would say that's good advice for any job.
That's true.
Like,
Yeah. I was going to say,
just act like you know what you're doing. People will believe it.
yeah, as a white American male, I guarantee you it works.
That is funny.
Was he assigned to an episode in season 1 before? I heard like he was supposed to direct an episode and schedules changed. Was there one that was assigned to him?
He's always been every season he's been offered an episode.
Okay.
Season 1 was fucking crazy because of COVID and the pandemic. Because all the directors had to spend 14 days in lockdown. So and that's one thing about moving the AR wall off the schedule. If we even had a slight shift a day, it was cataclysmic to our schedule because all these quarantines and lockdowns. So I forget exactly what happened, but it was something with that and another show that he was doing. But we had so many of those happen season 1 where someone's on another show, right? So you're again, and this is probably getting way into the weeds, but you're in contract with HBO and then you have another contract with CBS, but like that show had just crazy, 18 people got COVID and they got pushed. So you have to finish that job, but then you start encroaching on this job, but you can't break this contract. Then you're going to break this contract. It's like, so again, that's part of where I tried to help as much, put on my legal brain and help some of our directors through some of these things. But ultimately it comes down to relationships, right? You have to try to make two people happy, but someone's going to be unhappy. Like we had that happen a lot. Like, Andy Armaginian was directing our show and Disco at the same time, season 2 going back and forth. All the COVID scheduling stuff faded away season 2, and we were able to kind of make a normal show after that.
I can picture you on the phone going, I'm sorry, we have to have this actor. They're the only one that knows how to work the widget in this episode. So we kind of have to have him on set for this.
Yeah, 100%.
Well, my last question is, Jennifer Lawrence in Star Trek when?
Right? She'd be so great in it. Wouldn't that be amazing?
That would be cool.
She's such an amazing person. It was funny. She's from Kentucky, and her parents came out when she got the role in Cold Case, and I became friends with her parents. They were super sweet, and they're like, "Do you think our daughter could actually make it?" And I was like, "I actually think she could." Yeah. And then like, I don't know, it was like 5 years later, I was on this other CBS show. How's your mom doing? She's like, they still thank you. You're the one that told you told my parents I was going to make it.
I mean, who's going to look at her parents and go, I really don't think so?
Yeah, exactly. Like, what are you going to say? No? Yeah.
She was so, like, honestly, go back and watch. She's so good in this episode.
Yeah. My wife,
fantastic.
Big Cold Case fan.
Huh?
And I remember liking the flashbacks a lot. Like, I agree. Like, I would get sucked into those flashbacks. They were really well done.
Yeah. Well, Chris Fisher, Open Pike Night is an Open Mic Night themed podcast. Do you have a joke for us tonight?
I'm the dad. I'm a single dad of an 11-year-old daughter. So all my jokes are dad jokes. So I apologize.
Oh.
So let's see. Why did Spot cross the road?
I don't know.
To get to his logical side.
Oh, that's good.
I was like, it was too pun far to drive. I couldn't figure it out.
Yeah.
Too pun far? It's good.
Yep. Do we need a one-word tease? Because I feel like we got a decent amount of teases in this interview.
Yeah, but we need one more.
Some we might need to bleep out.
One.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm not going to put any restrictions on this, man. If you want to give us a one-word tease for season 5, we're okay with that. We're not going to hold you back. But season 4 is the next season coming out. So.
Can I give you a 2-word tease?
Yes,
done.
Please.
Space Baby.
Oh man! All right.
All right.
There you go. Well, let's do it again when 401 and 410 come out. Let's do it again.
We absolutely would love to.
Okay,
cool.
Yeah.
We would like to be your first interview with your Anson Mount procedural. I'm just going to say that out loud so that it's on the record.
We'll be there. Yeah.
You're pitching this, I've pitched a million shows. I never sold one, but let's see.
First time for everything.
Right. Yeah.
There you go.
Thank you, Chris.
See you guys.
Hi, Open Pike Night listeners. Lieutenant Lucy of London here.
Hey there, Open Pike Night listeners. It's Platty M3 here.
Have you guys ever thought about calling in and being part of the show yourself? It's dead easy. All you have to do is go to openpike.com.
You can record your call right there on the page. All you need is a phone. But if you need a little more editing time and you want to cut those breaths, speed it up to 105%, just to slide in under that 90-second cutoff,
You can send in an MP3
to openpike@gmail.com.
and the guys will use it or maybe montage you. But anyway, you'll still be part of the show. They're available on all social media platforms, so just look them out.
At Open Pike. But if you want to hang out with me and many of the other wonderful listeners and callers, oh, and yeah, the Open Pike Night crew is there too, look up their Discord. It's a Trek-positive place to hang out with some of the nicest people you've ever met online, despite our individual feelings on episodes. You can find that link right on openpike.com as well. Finally, if you're all caught up on Open Pike Night episodes and are fine just tossing Jesse aside, but still need more Cameron and producer John in your life, you should check out their other podcast, Green Shirt, A Newbie's Trek Through the Next Generation. Although the show name is now completely a misnomer, you can hear Cameron experience TNG-related content for the first time, along with producer John, Rob, and Bobby. They have finished all of TNG and the movies, but after a brief summer separation, they are continuing on with their mini Deep Space Nine episodes and plowing Saucer Section first into Star Trek Picard. Good luck with that one.
Have fun. Enjoy.